Broncos versus the Storm. Broncos obviously come up with that shock win last week over the Roosters. That was a big result for them. Few changes, most notably 6 and 7. Albert Kelly going into the 7 jersey. Milford coming back in the 6 shirt as well. And Rabati coming onto the bench with Kennedy moving into the 8 shirt. I mean, what's your thoughts on this one? I mean, the Storm are pretty much unchanged. Hughes is named at 7 as he was last week, but obviously didn't run out. I think he's expected to play this week. Booth comes into the 14 shirt, and then you've got a new ad in Loyero. I've probably butchered his name there, so apologies. Please don't cancel me for that. But the Storm, it's going to be hard to look past them, despite the fact that the Broncos got such a good result last week.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Nico Hines and Brandon Smith were outstanding for the Storm last week. Cooper Johns and Chris Lewis, they did their job. Didn't do anything extravagant. Chris Lewis, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, had ever played 5'8" prior to last week. So, hat off to him, because he's knocked out a perennial half in Cooper Johns, just with how well he played. It was a fast start by the Raiders, but in typical Storm fashion, they came back. They did what they did. The Broncos, well, I don't know how many multis they ruined last week, but they definitely ruined mine. What can you say? What can you say? It's a Broncos side that looked gelled, that looked good. It didn't help that the Roosters were playing like they had, themselves in their own hands, just kind of playing with each other and trying to figure out what was going on. But, yeah, the Broncos came to the SCG and comprehensively beat a very poor Roosters side. What else can you say about it? I'm still in a little bit of shock, actually. Yeah, between them and the Dogs giving the Titans a big run for their money, we nearly saw some very big upsets last week.
Yeah, it just goes to show as well what happens when you've got, a half that comes in with a lot to prove. Albert Kelly obviously being away over on my side of the world, playing for Hull FC in the Super League, comes back, plays reserve grade a little bit, obviously makes a bit of an impression, gets called up with Milford being out of form and, injuries to the Broncos as well. And now all of a sudden finds himself as the dominant playmaker in the 7 shirt. And you got to say, he earned it last week. Everything that the Broncos did right had Albert Kelly's signature all over it, whether it was those, wicked kicks that he was putting up or just the way that he steered the forwards around the middle of the park and really picked the Roosters apart, through those middles. It was an impressive performance. You got to say that Kelly was the standout in there. So it's great to see that they're honouring him and giving him that second shot. And, it's got to be said, with Milford playing the way that he's playing as well, he's not really the player that you look to steer the team around the park. You get him taking his chances, get him going at the line. He's got a good bit of footwork on him. Kelly's maybe not as quick going at the line. Maybe he's not as agile as Milford is. So Milford's still a threat. Take nothing away from him. It's why he's on the money that he's on. But, Kelly was playing for a contract. He had a point to prove. And, last week he proved that point.
Yeah, very much so. Tyson Gamble will probably come back in round 13 once he has served his week-long suspension. But, we'll see. In terms of a tip, hard to go past the Storm on this one. It's a sensible pick. It's an easy pick. They are still one of the premier sides in the competition. And it's a Broncos side that won comprehensively against the Roosters. But again, like we said last week, a second-string Roosters side is still a very strong side. A second-string Storm side is almost just as bad, if not worse, especially when you have, the likes of Hughes coming back. You have a starting hooker at 14 out of 16 teams in Brandon Smith that is essentially your second-choice dummy half. Nico Hines, a superb, running fullback who essentially is playing for a contract, no matter where the heck he'll be next year. So, hard not to go past the Storm. I'm going to go them 13+. Anytime try scorer, take your pick. Nico Hines currently is $2 on Sportsbet. I think it's really hard not to go past that. The Storm have struggled in recent weeks with stopping fullbacks, and I feel like I've taken your tip there. I'm very sorry.
I'm going to come to the other side of the world, and I'm going to slap you for that. I had such a sound logic. Do you know what? We don't even coordinate this. Me and Luke talk very limited before this happens because we're worried about taking each other's tips. And then he comes up and he's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe Nico Hines." I'm like, come on, a break. Come on.
Look, I'll throw a value tip out there for you as well, because while it is a very strong Storm side, they do have their lapses every now and then. George Jennings can come in and have a defensive lapse every now and then. I think you could look at someone like a David Mead at 288 to come back off of his hat trick last week to have another one. Jermaine Azarko at 330, also a very strong chance for me.
Okay. Well, yeah, as alluded to there, I'm gonna be going Storm 13 plus. I'm gonna be going Nico Hines, just simply because my logic behind this one is Hines is obviously, as you mentioned, he's in the market right now, and the team that is tipped to be going to the Broncos. Nothing says I'm here, pay me what I'm worth, like turning up and absolutely pumping the team, and you being one of the biggest names responsible for it. So, I mean, I'm going Nico Hines there just for that logic. So that's where we go. You're going 13 plus. Jennings, I think you said. I'm going Hines 13 plus the Storm. We'll
yeah.
Yep.